yes, we are living in a time with heavy emotional, mental, and etheric bombardment. This is the truth. If you've been following me, go to my YouTube channel. I've reported about this in detail, in scary detail. I don't need to repeat this every week, yeah, because if I report about those micro momentums and how to use them, obviously I will try to show you what you can do to give you assistance in out vibrating and transmuting that, and not in confirming your paranoia or your fears, because that's not going to get you anywhere. So good to see you guys. Welcome everybody to our weekly energy update and energy meditation here together live on Skype. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy coach and energy therapist, and I'm going to guide you through these energies here that are coming in this next week as our weather condition. So those of you who are energetically sensitive, who are empathic, you will always be on the pulse of things, probably a few days ahead of sort of what you're going to see in the collective, as we call this. So, it takes some time until, whatever these inner impulses are to come to an expression in the outer world. And this makes us feel alone at times because we're not really seeing it in others yet. What we are experiencing, find it hard to talk about it. And this is why we come together here every day. People from all over the world, a loose group of people who feel drawn to listening and sharing about some of these more unseen inner experiences. It helps us to feel connected. It helps us to know that we're not alone, and it gives us hope. So this energy update, which is for the coming week, week 33, that is for the 7th till the 12th of August. So one day shorter, because I know I'm going to have to do a new energy update before the 13th. So there are some complications in this next week, some unexpected turns of events, some really unexpected things for all of us. But I want to address how most people, at least that I can see here in this international community of energetically sensitives, how they're feeling right now. Many of you are going through of karmic family stuff. Okay, so what does that mean in practical terms? Issues with your family constellation. This could be something that you're experiencing in your immediate family. Say if you have children, in your own home, in your own family home, but more so issues with siblings, with long-standing, unspoken family patterns that we somehow have to resolve right now. And maybe it's not so clear to you that these are at the core of some of the issues that you're going through. And I'm going to try to take this apart for you a little bit. When you mature, when you get older, and you learn to cope with things that weren't really that ideal, or that were traumatic even, or that you had to kind of find ways, okay, to navigate through. When they stem from our early childhood, they tend to kind of just freeze there, okay? They don't tend to really develop a lot. That is until a certain time in our life where maybe big transitions happen. Say when we have our own children, when we get married, when our parents retire, or when our parents pass. These are all very important rites of passage in our lives. And even though we don't live together in these multi-generational homes or settings anymore, we still go through these rites. And right now seems to be a time where a lot of that is coming forward. So many of you guys are actually going through a lot of pain right now, or fear even, maybe about your parents. I mean, this has obviously been going on since COVID has, changed so much in our awareness here, but it is very acute right now. And there's this fatigue that we all have, where we believed everything is going to be good now, and suddenly it's not. And all these scares are coming forward again, and they make us feel maybe a little hopeless or a little powerless. And I want you to know that you're not alone with this, okay? This is right now front and center for all of us. And here's where your unresolved childhood things come in. Because this situation that we are all experiencing here collectively triggers some of these patterns and these coping mechanisms that we've developed as children. Because quite frankly, unless you've had some major tragedy happen in your life, this collective situation with all these fears and uncertainties, the last time we felt them in that intensity was when we were children, when we were powerless. And so the only ways to deal with things, or sort of ideas that our ego can come up with, they kind of resemble what we would have done when we were a child still. And this is where our parents come in, because back in the days, we didn't know much. We thought our parents had it all figured out, and we were looking at them. And nowadays it's our local governments maybe, or bosses or partners that we assign this authority to. And we have this like really, really strong awakening right now that we may not be able to fully trust them. And it's like when you right around 13, 14, 15, you find out that your parents make mistakes too, or your parents don't have it all figured out. And that creates a very deep form of duality in us, because we want to trust and we want this guidance, and we don't feel that we can do it on our own, and there's nothing coming there, nothing reliable. So from this consciousness development perspective, this global situation is literally forcing us to mature. It's forcing us to go into this grown-up stance with ourselves. We all have to make choices right now. So for many of you, August is a month of decision making. There is a wonderful manifestation energy that's coming in, and you may not feel this as wonderful just yet, okay? Because you may feel afraid of these decisions that you have to make, or you want to avoid them. You want to avoid any kind of confrontation that comes with this. But I can assure you, as an energy reader, that these energies are extremely supportive and beneficial, meaning that if you actually step into the decision, if you call it a shot, if you make a stance, if you find that guidance that you long for, to know where to go, if you can find that within your own heart, within your own mind, and within your own integrity, it will be extremely beneficial for you. So I'm not saying that whatever it is that you're believing has to be true. So there was also a lot of perspective changes in August, and that's why, for us to actually step into this educated mind and this connected heart, and really asking ourselves, as a human, okay, how am I feeling about this, and what consequences does this have for me? And inevitably, you're going to have to ask yourself, what's important? What matters? What do I really want my life to be? Yeah, this is the hard part. And as these sort of spiritual teenagers that we all are, we just discovered that, everybody else is just as, say, I don't want to say helpless, but, doesn't really know the right answer, because there is no right answer, doesn't mean that we have to revert back to our inner child patterns. Okay, this is your task right now. And whatever it is that you are experiencing, there's a lot of grief energy right now, this realization that all these ideals and dreams and hopes and so forth that we used to have, that they have to be modified, and that it's not really like we wanted it to be. Yeah, we have to deal with this. We have to go through these stages of grief. And for some of you, yeah, and I know these can be empty words when you are going through some kind of tragedies, or the loss of a loved one, or the loss of belongings, or anything like that, that this can be difficult to see. But I want to give you a really upbeat message here about next week, knowing that it's going to be a very complicated week. All right. So there will be a lot of aspects. It's probably the most complicated week of in August here, because there will be a lot of things that will force you to rethink, to reevaluate, and to let go of restricting beliefs. And these restricting beliefs, that can go as far as you literally seeing things in a certain way that turned out not to be true. And there is always a bit of a grief that comes with that, yeah, because we're going to have to reconcile the fact that we couldn't see this before. So in that, it's like an authenticity testing here in this next week, yeah? So don't go into desperation. Don't go into powerlessness. You are not. This is there for you to graduate and become a grown-up, a spiritual grown-up, all right? That recognizes that you are your individuated soul self here, and that you have a soul purpose, and that your task is to know what that purpose is. You need to know what your role is in this unfoldment here that we are witnessing. And if you can't find this, it can be very, very foggy right now. It can feel lost, okay? And you can feel that there's a lot of unmet needs that you have, that even though you thought you were on the right path, that they're not actually moving you toward who you truly are, or who you truly want to be. So you got to be careful here not to revert back into your inner child patterns. Yeah, that's the challenge. Yeah. And how does one do that? Well, first it's self-honesty, and self-reporting. You have to be present enough to know where a certain thought or certain perspective or certain belief comes from. Yeah. And even sometimes these voices that you hear in the back of your head, you might actually find out they're not even yours. This is your grandfather who always used to say this, or this was my dad's to-go phrase, okay, when there were problems, yeah? And just because you have this recording that keeps playing like a record, doesn't mean that this is actually true to you, doesn't mean that you believe this. Now, when it comes to resolving family issues that many of you guys are going through, understand that it's not just you who is going through this. Understand that this basically triggers this inner child in all of us all right? And you may feel zoomed back to kindergarten or zoomed back to, family situations when you were 6 or 10 years old. And it probably is the most accurate way to describe what is going on. So remind yourself that you're no longer that child from back then, but that you are your own grown up and that you are not the one from back then anymore. Yeah. But at the same time, also know what you can expect from the other people. Yeah. This is something that doesn't just apply in our families, that also applies at work, at school. Here in the United States, you're probably going to get ready to go back to school. There's a lot of uproar about this in regards to the COVID numbers and, how to deal with all this. And it's like a deja vu, but also like a new beginning. Yeah. And for many of you, this new beginning allows you now to apply what you have gathered, what you have learned over the past year and a half in regards to what truly matters to you, what you can expect from others and what you can't expect, what you just need to let go, and where you need to make a stance. That's why I called this authenticity testing earlier. Yeah. And for some of you, it may mean that you recognize that you want to leave that constellation, whether it's your relationship, that you've identified as toxic or, not conducive or, abusive perhaps even, whether it is your job situation that keeps pulling you into this paranoia or into this pessimism or into this negativity, or your, interaction with your family where you realize, okay, you know what, I can only handle my mom or my siblings for like an hour and a half and then I have to leave. These are grown-up decisions, okay? Because why would you spend time, or why would you expose yourself to things that inadvertently make you feel bad about yourself? So there is this like really strong impulse now to step out of whatever that karmic role that you were assigned to or that you chose as a child, to step out of that role and redefine your own role and find your purpose in, really becoming that now. So this is the time, as I've already mentioned in the forecast for August, to really look at what do I stand for, and maybe I want to, become part of some kind of social enterprise. I want to engage myself somehow. Want to make a statement somehow. Go pick up bagels from the local bagel store that would be thrown away and distribute them to people who don't have food, or go help out with other social issues that you are seeing in your community, even though that as we are still restricted in this social immersion here in the United States and Australia. You guys are experiencing lockdowns over there. Here we don't have lockdowns yet, but it's getting really tight again, and so we need to find ways to work with this now, and maybe accept that this is how it's one of those things that we may have to learn to live with, without judging, without getting caught in this sort of opinionated position that is part of our inner child patterns, guys. Yeah, so look at your blind spots and be willing to change your perspective, because there will be a lot of new insights here in this next week, some of which will shock you, okay, if you haven't already identified those things. So in regards to COVID to all these statistics to just some of the ways media is portraying things. And let me assure you that this is probably a good week to stay away from mainstream media altogether. All media, for that matter, social media included. Those of you who are energetically sensitive have probably figured this out a long time ago. But when you watch news, especially when you watch news, when you have this visual of news, which you can't stop the stream of visuals, it has a real negative effect on your energy, because the imprint that it has on your seeing nerve and the imagery that is being created that needs to be processed takes more energy than, for example, just reading words. But even reading words can create severe cognitive dissonances in you. So I would strongly recommend you not to go to these sites where you maybe where you went to get some juice, where you wanted to get sort of a confirmation of your perspective, to refrain from that, even if you just do this for a week as an experiment and observe how you feel. Yeah, there's obviously collective energies that create some kind of momentum, and I've tried to capture them for you in this month calendar here for transCODES, where you see this energy wellness barometer for every day. But it's really important that you connect with your own energy and know what your own energy favors, or what it needs, what you need, without getting pulled into this. Yeah, I've called it the media wars, the mind control in the forecast for 2021. It's very shocking for me sometimes when I do these forecasts, like a year ahead of time, years ahead of time, and then realize that, oh my God, it's exactly how I predicted it, and I wish it wasn't, okay? But, when you're in this forecasting, when you're visionary and you can do this, you can also see beyond this, okay? And there's a lot of reason for optimism for us. Just remember, August is the time for a new beginning. And even if it's just in the inception, well, the inception was in June and July, but in the beginning stages, okay? So everything that you change now, that you start now, will really pay off for you in January. So it will determine basically the course of the rest of your year. So if you want to make bigger changes, make them now, because if you're not doing them now, there's going to be a stagnation for you until January. It's like you have to start the machine, okay? You have to bring the whole thing to roll. You have to give it the momentum, and then by January you're going to be able to see the big difference that it made. So if you want to leave your job, if you want to leave your relationship, if you want to maybe move, sell your house, move somewhere else in a different environment, if you feel enough is enough with your family, or if you want to start new somewhere, August is a really, really good time for this, guys. And if you need individual, personal assistance in this, understand that this is what I do, okay? So helping people through transitions, especially those bigger life transitions, that's my daily job. Ask for a free initial energy coaching session if you would like to find out what that's like. This concludes the forecast here for this next week till August 12th. How does this resonate with you guys? Does this fit into what you're experiencing right now? What's your personal experience in regards to media right now? Anybody out there who realizes that every single time you skim the news or watch the news or go on social media sites and watch this sort of mainstream mood, right, that is extremely polarizing right now, how that negatively affects you. Anybody want to share? Maybe let us know what that feels to you. You can open up your microphone, or you can also use the chat here, the live chat. Anybody know what I'm talking about? What it does to your energy when you listen to news, when you watch news, or when you see all these big.
Hi, Jona. I
Hey
can
there.
speak to that a bit. Yeah, I try to avoid watching the. Whoops, sorry about that. I tend to avoid watching the news, but it still gets through, especially when you're reading social media. And for me, it makes me feel kind of like a schizophrenic kind of like feeling. It's because like, there's a big part of me that knows, okay, just kind of stay calm, stay neutral. But then there's another part that's going, oh my God, this is awful. It's
I
really
know
frightening.
exactly what you mean.
It kind of it makes me
Yeah.
fearful,
Yeah.
and it really brings me off balance.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's also an opportunity to remind myself that to be more balanced and actually look at the reality of the situation, because so much of the media stuff is really like frightening, like either kinds of sides that you look at. It's all kind of scary, but not necessarily the reality. And that's the tricky thing to work out.
Thank you, Abigail. Yes, it takes a lot of energy management right now to stay informed, because you don't really know if that's, valid information. So this is something for the truth seeker in you and all of us, that we have to get used to. Okay, we're gonna have to find our own truth. All right, and not to say that all mainstream media is wrong or whatever, but there's momentums. Okay, these are like propaganda. Okay, so one news station will copy what the other news station writes. Yeah, and so we'll get this megaphone of current streams, just like how on TikTok or Instagram, on YouTube, how you can have things go viral. So mainstream media has become sort of the essence of viral posts, no longer really being journalistically investigated. So we have to be those investigators. And when it comes to deciding, which part of the news we're taking for real or not, this discernment process, yes, we're going to have to fight a lot of emotions, because this is what the problem with these polarized media tactics do to us. They trigger a lot of emotions. So just like you just said, we have to deal with a lot of like, oh my God, that come up, and actively bring ourselves in balance. A big mistake that I see people do all the time is reading the news right before they go into bed. Because what happens when you do that? You've just triggered that sort of polarization in you. You've just triggered this inner schizophrenic, as you called it, and it creates a massive dissonance in you. Yeah, it triggers your amygdala, that emotional part of you, and you're no longer rational. And here you are laying in bed trying to fall asleep, and suddenly your heart starts to race, and you don't even know what's going on, and all of a sudden everything is doomsday for you. Do you guys notice that? Yeah. In particular, the heart flutter is something that was really strong in these last couple of days. Anybody noticing this? Sudden heart palpitations, sudden nausea, issues where your body all of a sudden goes into like a state that psychologists would probably call sort of an onset of a panic attack, without actually feeling panic or thinking in a panic way. Yeah, guys, understand that that's the quality of this current collective energy. Yes, nausea and heart flutters here too, guys. And it's rough sometimes. And it takes a very trained person to see through that and to recognize that's not mine. Yeah, and I don't need to panic. It's not because I'm having COVID or because I'm having a heart attack. It's because I'm energetically sensitive and I'm picking up on that and my body is responding to this. Yeah, yeah. So now we do have a bit of a fatigue here with the pandemic. And so, many of us have not really have had really healthy lifestyles over the last year and a half. And some of our, physical condition, has maybe decreased a bit. We haven't been able to sleep well, or we haven't been able to move as much. Okay, so there is a warning signal here. And so that's why August is not just, good for new beginnings in regards to family or business or, relationships, but also your health. Yeah. So please listen to these signals. But when you get these heart flutters or these sudden onsets of like what could turn into a panic attack, apply everything that you've learned through mindfulness, through, conscious breathing and present moment awareness. Yeah, it usually just takes a few seconds, yeah, maybe 2 minutes to get through this. Remind yourself of that and have a good strategy, yeah? Know what really helps to balance you, to connect you with yourself. Taking your shoes off, going and just standing in grass for a moment, or taking a walk in nature, or petting your dog, or something like that. Whatever can help you to reconnect with the true core of you. So yes, we are living in a time with heavy emotional, mental, and etheric bombardment. This is the truth. If you've been following me, go to my YouTube channel. I've reported about this in detail, in scary detail. I don't need to repeat this every week. Yeah, because if I report about those micro momentums and how to use them, obviously I will try to show you what you can do to give you, assistance in out vibrating and transmuting that, and not in confirming your paranoia or your fears, because that's not going to get you anywhere. Yeah. Then let's move into the inner experience part. So this is the unusual thing here about what I do with you guys on Skype Live. Every day we have these energy meditations where it's not just talk, but also going into a deeper state and experiencing this together. So we may have 5 minutes at the end to share a little bit about this. I've picked step 15 from my Sacred Self-Healing Experience course. It's called Pain and Fear. Don't worry. It's not going to go into pain and fear. It's going to teach you how to address pain and fear from within. So take a moment now. The meditation takes about 20 minutes, 22 minutes. Lean back. I'm going to turn myself off and turn the music on. Yeah, sorry. I had to cut this short. There's more music to this step. You can buy these steps, by the way. This step is very, very beautiful. A lot of people are afraid of this step, but it's actually a really, really powerful step. And this daily self-clearing and healing ritual, taking a shower but being fully present, can make a huge difference in your life, guys. It can make a huge difference. I need to let you go now, everyone. I wish you a wonderful weekend. Yeah, if you need uplifting words, go to my YouTube channel, go to my SoundCloud. There's so many free energy alignments there. And if you would like to actively work with some of these energies, I mean, you can buy these steps individually or as a course, and you can also participate in these trainings that we have, these energy trainings. There's my favorite coming up tomorrow. It's called the Higher Self. So 3 energy sessions in a day allows you to really immerse into your inner experience, guys. So if you need a break from all this that is around you, go check out the Higher Self Marathon Day tomorrow. That can help you to remember. Yeah. It's wonderful to be here with you. Gotta go now. See you next week.